All right, back in the garage. It's cold as shit outside, so I got the garage doors closed. And today we're going to be working on the 640. We're going to pull the Pure 500 out with the factory manifold. And today I'm going to do a full overall review of the Pure 500. And then what I'm going to also do is bring in the Pure 600, and we're going to go ahead and do a side-by-side comparison of the Pure 500 versus the Pure 600. And I want to just show you guys what it looks like with the factory manifold and the dimensions of that manifold and what it looks like versus the Pure 600, which comes with Pure's manifold. They have their own cast manifold design. So I want to go ahead and show you guys the side-by-side comparisons of those two things. And then we're going to go ahead and get the Pure 600 installed so that we can start the tuning process with Carrie and see what the Pure 600 is capable of doing. So welcome to another episode. Let's get this one going. Normally I wait till the end of the episode to mention these things, but I figured I'd let you guys know because I notice most people don't watch the episode all the way through. But if you guys don't know, In-House Performance, we are a Pure dealer, we are a Dorsch dealer, we are also a variant dealer, and we have our own parts there for sale with the block-off plates, the diverter block-off plates, the charge pipes, with blow-off valves for the F10 and F06. We're bringing back the F10 front mount intake, and I also will have new N55 inlets in stock at the end of this month. So stay tuned for that. Also, check me out on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I'm on all of it. So check me out there. And yeah, let's get into this episode. All right, so the first part of this video, I kind of wanted to cover the overall review of the Pure 500, and I wanted to separate it into a few different categories. One of the categories is drivability, another one is affordability, another one is install, and another one will be performance. So let's start with the main thing that a lot of people are concerned about, which is cost. Obviously, the Pure 500 for a stage 1 turbo is only $1,100. And I do keep saying that, roughly with the right amount of supporting mods, you're going to spend about $5,000 to make the power that I made. But when you break it down, that's about $25 a horsepower, which is not bad when it comes down to it. So we almost made about 200 wheel horsepower from factory. And if you spend about $5,000 to gain that, it's really, really good power to money. So on a scale from 1 to 10, obviously I'm going to put it up there high in the 8 and 9 range, just because obviously it's not cheaper than some of the other, maybe some competitors' turbos or Chinese turbos or whatever you want to compare it to, in the sense it's not a pure turbo. But I still think what you get for the amount of money you're spending is phenomenal. And it also is backed by amazing customer service, warranty. I definitely rate it on the high end of that for the cost and affordability. As far as drivability, the car drove like it was stock when I was not in manual, sport plus mode. When I was in comfort mode or eco mode, the car drove phenomenal. It drove like a stock car and then had the power when I wanted it to be there. So I put the drivability really high on this one, just because I drove it short distances, just to the grocery store and to run around town. I drove it long distances to Dallas, to South Austin, and all over Austin for car meets and events, and just going places with friends and my wife. And so we really enjoyed the car. And so I definitely rate it really high on the drivability, because when you want it to be stock, it's stock. And then when you want it to have the power there, the power was there. And it was a lot of fun to drive. So I definitely rated like a 9 or a 10 on the drivability scale. And then on the performance, obviously, we all know that I made almost 200 wheel horsepower gain from the factory stock 300. And that, like I said, you spend about $5,000 with the supporting mods and the turbo, the tune, the high pressure fuel pump, and like all the other stuff that we got going on in the car. And to spend $25 per horsepower is really, really good in the world of horsepower. So I definitely say that it is up there with the performance gain that you get from something that's so affordable. I mean, and then the cool thing is too, is if you want to pay the, $1,100 to buy a new Pure 500 and you throw it on the car, you don't need a tune. So you can run that still on the stock tune. It's definitely doable, and it even says so on Pure's website. And then worst case, you throw an OTS tune from one of your platform providers, BM3 or MHD, and you got yourself, a quick little car. And especially, I mean, it's fast with the 6 Series. We all know I like big cars, 5s and 6 Series, and so it definitely feels fast in the 6 Series. So I bet you it's going to feel even faster in a 3 Series, a 2 Series, or a 1 or a 4. So I think the performance gains is fantastic for the cost, and it's going to be really hard to beat. There's some other competitors out there, but and they're claiming their stage one turbos are equal, if not better performing than Pure. But I'm more with somebody who has good service, has good warranty, and just overall good customer service. The guys over at Pure have been nothing but professional, respectful, and gone over and above for me over the last 7 years that I've been running their turbos. And so just to continue to have a great relationship, obviously, like I do, it's really hard to compare it to anybody else. Um, it's also hard to, I haven't run anybody else's turbo. So I have run full frame kits, and I've driven friends' cars with other setups and stuff like that. But for me, all of my cars since I've been in the N55 game have run Pures, if not my own custom turbo kits. So yeah, that's kind of like my real quick review on the Pure 500. Best bang for your buck, easy to install. I mean, like I said, I pulled that whole manifold out. You don't need to do that. You can actually just leave that manifold installed and save yourself money on exhaust gaskets, on studs, and hardware for the turbo mounting, as well as maybe some of your other components. I highly recommend you replace your coolant lines and you replace your O-rings on your oil lines. And then also replacing your downpipe gasket, I think, are the major things that you should do, even with just the Pure 500. But the ability to install it is super easy if you leave the exhaust manifold up in there. It's a quick unbolt from the V-band flange, separate the turbo, and bolt it back up like you saw in my previous video, but just leaving the exhaust manifold up in the car. So kind of hard to beat. But yeah, so that's my real quick review on the Pure Turbo, on the Pure 500. And so now let's get into the Pure 500 versus the Pure 600, just on a side-by-side comparison. And we'll give you guys some measurements and some ideas of why Pure 600 costs what it does. And you can definitely see the differences between the two. Okay, so here we have it. We have the Pure 500 on the bottom and the Pure 600, the new one, on the top. Now, obviously, the main differences that you can see right off the bat is the lower one has the stock manifold that is a little bit bulkier and different design. And then the top one is the Pure 600 that has Pure's new cast tubular design. So those are the first main differences that we see. And we'll go ahead and I'll show you guys inside those manifolds to see the differences in flow that you'll be experiencing with the new manifold design. And obviously everything else is pretty much identical because it fits a stock application. You have your outlet that bolts to your downpipe. These are obviously going to be the same. You're going to have your tube that goes to your intercooler. These are obviously going to be the same. So this is going to be the same. And everything else is going to be pretty much the same. Now, when we come around to the front, there's going to be a few differences that you're going to see right off the bat. First is the amount of blades that you have on the Pure 500. Now, the Pure 500 only has 6 blades, but see behind each blade, there's another blade there, and that is called a splitter blade. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And then on the Pure 600, you have a 9 blade. So we have a much bigger inducer with a 9 blade versus a very small inducer 6 blade. But it also has splitter blades. Now, splitter blades are really good for efficiency and for smaller turbos like this with the low end power as well as torque. So this is probably one of the reasons why we saw such high torque in the low RPM ranges. So with having splitter blades, it's a kind of a cool design trick to still help the airflow instead of passing the turbine and tumbling, direct airflow more precisely. Now, when we come over to the Pure 600, obviously we have our standard 9 blade. And this is obviously going to have some different characteristics. We're not going to probably create as much torque down low, but it's still a hybrid turbo, so it's going to be more effective than a full frame turbo, but a lot larger, so it'll have some good bottom end, but also some really good top end where it'll allow the turbo to breathe. Something else I want to touch on is obviously we discussed this looks like a much larger opening, but an option with the Pure 600 and the Pure 750 is the ability to go to their larger inlet. Now, this is the inlet for the factory, and this dimension is 64 millimeters. We come over here to the new design. This inlet is 69 millimeters. So you have a much larger inlet by 5 millimeters. That is this area here. So as you can even see, the thickness here is much thicker than it is here. So you're able to upgrade to the larger inlet for the Pure 600 and the Pure 750. They do not offer a silicone inlet for the F10 and F6 or 6 Series chassis, but that's where our intakes come into place. But they do offer the silicone inlet for 2, 3, and 4 Series cars. So that is the main differences on the compressor side of the 500 versus the 600. Now, the next major difference we're going to see is when we come around to the turbine housing. Now, obviously, the turbine housings are going to be very similar in the sense that these both mount to your factory downpipe. And then you have your wastegate flap on each one, which are very similar. And then we're going to look at the inducer here on the turbine wheel. And as you can see, it looks significantly smaller than the one over here. So this allows for the turbo to breathe, obviously, significantly more, so we're not choking the turbo as much. So those are the differences here. But now let's go ahead and turn around these manifolds and let me show you guys what these manifolds look like. Now we have the turbos turned over and we have the Pure 500 on the bottom and the Pure 600 here on the top. And obviously you can see there's a major difference here. But first we're going to talk about, obviously these runners have to be the same size in order to fit into the cylinder head. So there's no major difference in these sizes. The major difference you're going to see, and with my flashlight on, is what's inside the runner. And see how it's got dips and protruded areas and not smooth flow radiuses or bends. And you have areas that like this one specifically that shrink down the exhaust port, and you have stuff that doesn't look like it would flow as smoothly, which that is a major part of a turbo. And if we come up here to these runners, very smooth radiuses, opened up, no restrictions. Trying to get this flashlight to show you the best picture possible. And so this is a huge benefit to this manifold being able to flow better and produce more power. Another area is this section here. It is very restricted on the stock manifold. This is where your twin scroll comes into play. And on the Pure one, it is less restrictive. It looks smaller, but it's only because on the factory one, when they cut that piece off, and I've seen it on many videos and pictures, the restriction there is so significant. And this is a well-machined section, so it flows a lot better to the turbine housing. So yeah, the main thing is flowing as much smooth gas to the turbine housing so it can spin up your compressor. So that is another major difference between the Pure 500 and the Pure 600, obviously with the 600 coming with Pure's manifold. You do spend another, $1,500 with you go to the 600, but there's definitely reasons why you're spending the extra money. So some final measurements of each turbo before we get this Pure 600 put in. We're going to go ahead and let you guys know. So the Pure 500 comes with a 52 millimeter compressor wheel and then the stock 47 millimeter turbine wheel. And over here on the Pure 600, you have a 58 millimeter compressor wheel with a 55 millimeter turbine wheel. So obviously significantly bigger versus the Pure 500. So those are the final comparison notes of the Pure 500 versus the Pure 600. So now we're going to go ahead and get the Pure 600 all bolted up with the electronic wastegate and a few of the coolant lines and oil lines, and we're going to go ahead and get this thing put in the car. All right, put the Pure 600 in, Change the oil. Just did a coolant flush, which I think we need a little bit more coolant. Yeah, let me add a little bit more coolant here. And then we'll go ahead and get this thing fired up. Now also with a new turbo, you want to make sure that you, just like your oil filter housing gasket, you want to prime the engine because you want oil to get into the turbo before you start it up. So we've already done that. So now we're just going to go ahead and start her up. Let's see. Main thing I'm praying for is no leaks. You can be the best mechanic in the world, but sometimes these O-rings do not cooperate. We don't want to smoke out the garage. I got to open the door, but so far so good. No leaks. We're ready to go. All right, that about does it for this episode. Appreciate you guys joining the channel. Again, hit like and subscribe. Yeah, really looking forward to getting this thing tuned. We are going to start on the E50 tune because I got a full tank of it and I'm not going to drain it to start a 93 tune. So we're going to first do the E50 tune on the Pure600. Hopefully the transmission holds. We're putting down some serious torque. So that's my first concern here. Supposedly the 640 and the 740 variant N55s have a forged crank similar to the M235 as well as internals. So I think I'm going to test that. And we're going to find out at what point, hopefully it does not fail, but if this M55 is capable of making that power without any issues. So we are going to push it into the 600 horsepower range and see how long it holds for. I know the transmission won't hold forever, so we're going to take it over to Jack's as soon as I start to see any kind of misbehavior. But yeah, we're really excited to do this. I got some other things that I'm going to be bringing content over the next couple of weeks, probably after the first of the year, and that way we can keep things flowing to you guys. And also, I am putting together a giveaway for you guys. So everybody that's joined the channel, for subscribers, followers, I'm going to tell you the process later on, and you guys are going to be stoked to find out what we're giving away. So stay tuned for that. Otherwise, hope everybody has a happy holiday season. Travel safe, be safe, and we'll catch you after the first of the year. Take it easy, guys.